Ashley Wales did not celebrate birthdays anymore. She used to. She used to make lists, invite people, imagine candles and laughter. But lists turned into unanswered messages. Laughter turned into silence. And the man who promised forever turned into a stranger with someone else's hand in his. So on the morning of her 26th birthday, Ashley sat on the floor of her small apartment and stared at the wall like it could talk her out of the day. The city outside was loud. Car horns. Distant music. Someone arguing on a balcony across the street. Inside her apartment, there was nothing but the hum of the refrigerator and the weight in her chest. She had taken the day off from work. Not to celebrate. Just to avoid people saying, "Happy birthday," with that pity in their eyes. Her phone buzzed once. A generic notification. No birthday messages. No Chris. No friends from before. Her parents had sent a short voice note at dawn, filled with love, but love from far away always felt softer. She dragged herself to the kitchen and poured cereal into a bowl. No milk. She forgot to buy some. She ate it dry, standing by the sink, looking at the empty chair across the table. Chris used to sit there. Chris used to kiss her forehead and say she was his future. Chris used to plan her birthdays weeks in advance. And then she found the messages. And the pictures. And the version of him that didn't belong to her. She didn't cry anymore. She felt worse than crying. She felt quiet. By noon, she decided to go out. Not to celebrate. Just to walk. The apartment felt too small for the memories trapped in it. The hallways smelled like paint and someone's cooking. Her building was old, the kind that looked tired but honest. People here didn't pretend to be rich. They just tried to survive. She walked past the door of the apartment next to hers. Apartment 4B. She had seen the man who lived there a few times. Tall. Quiet. Always dressed simply. Always polite but distant. He carried groceries like he didn't want anyone to notice him. No loud friends. No parties. No noise. She didn't know his name. She liked that. At the elevator, she paused when she heard footsteps behind her. He stepped into the hallway, keys in hand. They locked eyes for a moment. He gave a small nod. She nodded back. They rode the elevator in silence. He smelled like clean laundry and something faintly citrus. She stared at the numbers changing above the door, trying not to feel anything. When the elevator opened, he stepped aside to let her go first. "Thanks," she said quietly. He hesitated. "Happy birthday." She froze. She turned to him and tilted her head to the side. "How did you know?" she asked, surprisingly. He pointed at the balloons taped to her mailbox. Pink, slightly deflated. Her mother had ordered them online as a surprise. She forced a small smile. "Oh, right." He nodded again. "Have a good day." She watched him walk away, shoulders slightly hunched like he carried invisible weight. She didn't think about him again. She spent the afternoon wandering the city, sitting on a bench by the river, watching couples and children. She bought herself a cupcake from a bakery and ate it alone. The frosting was too sweet. She scraped most of it off. She returned home after sunset. The hallway lights flickered. Someone was playing sad music through thin walls. She reached her door. And froze. There was a small box on the floor. Next to it, a note. Her name was written on it. Carefully. Ashley. Her hand trembled as she picked it up. Inside the box was a small cake. Not fancy. White frosting. A few strawberries on top. A single candle stuck in the middle. The note read, "You shouldn't spend your birthday alone. The guy next door. Bernard." She stared at the name. Bernard. She knocked on apartment 4B before she could overthink it. The door opened slowly. He stood there, surprised, wearing a gray shirt and jeans. His hair was slightly messy, like he forgot mirrors existed. I got your cake," she said, holding it up like proof. He nodded, a little embarrassed. "I hope it's not weird." "It's not," she said. "It's kind." He hesitated, then stepped aside. "Do you want to come in?" "I made tea." She almost said no. She almost retreated into her quiet loneliness. But she didn't. "Okay," she said. His apartment was larger than hers. Clean. Minimal. No photos. Soft decorations. Lots of books, a laptop, and a large window overlooking the city. She sat on his couch, holding the cake in her lap like something fragile. He poured tea and handed her a mug. They sat in silence for a moment. "I wasn't going to celebrate," she said. He looked at her, really looked at her, like he was reading something on her face she didn't know how to hide. "Birthdays are strange," he said quietly. "They remind you of time." She nodded. He watched her light the candle. She didn't make a wish. She just stared at the flame. "Blow it out," he said softly. She did. The smoke curled up between them. She felt something in her chest she hadn't felt in a long time. Not hope. Not happiness. Just presence. "Thank you," she said. "You're welcome." They ate the cake in silence. It was slightly dry. He apologized. She laughed. It felt human. Later that night, she lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. She thought about Bernard's quiet voice. The way he didn't ask questions. The way he didn't pity her. She thought about how, for a moment, she wasn't alone. She fell asleep with the taste of strawberries on her tongue. She didn't know that Bernard Gerardo was not just a quiet neighbor. She didn't know his name was printed on towers of glass and steel. She didn't know his family owned half the city's infrastructure. She didn't know he was running from something so powerful it could erase her life in a week. She just knew that the man next door baked her a cake. And that somehow felt more dangerous than love. Before we find out who Bernard really is, if you've ever felt invisible, stay with this story. If you've ever been loved and lost, stay. And if you believe love never knocks when you need it, don't leave. Hit the like button, subscribe, and comment where you're listening from because this story is only getting started. Now, let's continue. Ashley woke up with the taste of strawberries still in her mouth. For a few seconds, she didn't remember why. Then the memory slid back into her like warm water. The quiet knock. The soft voice. The small cake on her kitchen floor like someone had left a piece of kindness behind. She stared at the ceiling, listening to the building breathe. Pipes ticking. Someone coughing 2 apartments away. A car passing too fast outside. She didn't feel happy. She felt less alone. Her phone buzzed. "Chris. Happy birthday, Ash. I hope you're okay." She stared at the message until the screen dimmed. Her thumb hovered over the keyboard. Then she locked the phone. She didn't want to open that door again. At work, people smiled too brightly. "Birthday girl." Jenna sang from across the office. "Drinks tonight. No excuses." Ashley smiled because it was easier than explaining the emptiness that followed celebrations. "I'll see," she said. She opened her laptop and stared at numbers that refused to stay in focus. Her mind kept drifting to apartment 4B. She hated how quickly a stranger had entered her quiet. That evening, she stood outside her door longer than necessary, keys in hand. Music drifted through the wall. Soft piano. Hesitant notes, like someone was practicing a song they never finished. She knocked before she could change her mind. The music stopped. Bernard opened the door. His hair was slightly damp, like he'd just showered, and he looked surprised in that gentle, distant way that made it hard to read him. "I wanted to say thank you," she said, holding up a small paper bag. "For the cake." He blinked, then stepped aside. "You didn't have to. I wanted to." Inside, his apartment felt even quieter at night. The city lights painted faint patterns on the walls. No photos. No clutter. No life spilling over. They sat at the kitchen counter. "You work late," he said. "Always," she replied. "Finance never sleeps." He nodded. "I know." She noticed how his fingers tightened around his mug. "What do you do?" she asked. He hesitated. Just long enough for her to notice. "I consult." She waited. He didn't add anything. She looked away first. They started talking more after that. Not about big things. About how elevators always smelled like old metal. About how coffee tasted better at night. About how some songs hurt for no reason. She told him about painting when she couldn't sleep. About poems she used to write and never showed anyone. About how birthdays felt heavier after heartbreak. He listened. He didn't interrupt. He didn't fix anything. He just stayed. And somehow, that felt like something she'd forgotten existed. Then the black car appeared. At first, she thought it belonged to someone important in the building. It sat across the street, engine humming, windows too dark. The next day, it was still there. The third day, she noticed Bernard watching it from his balcony. His shoulders were tense. His jaw was tight. His hands were in his pockets like he was trying to hold himself together. "Do you know them?" she asked lightly, trying not to sound curious. "No," he said too fast. She nodded, but the word didn't match his face. That night, a knock came to her door. She opened it and felt the air leave her lungs. Chris stood there. He looked older, sharper. His suit hugged him like he belonged to rooms she'd never entered. His eyes were still the same, the eyes that once made her feel safe. "Ashley." His voice was familiar in a way that hurt. "Hi," she said, neutral, like they were strangers. "Can we talk?" She hesitated, then stepped into the hallway. The walls felt closer with him there. They walked to the stairwell. "I heard you moved," he said. "Didn't know where. My company transferred me here last month." She nodded. "Okay. You didn't answer my message." "I saw it." Silence stretched between them. "You look different," he said. "So do you." He exhaled slowly. "I miss you." She looked at the concrete wall instead of him. "I messed up," he said quickly. "But I never stopped loving you." Her chest tightened. She didn't let it show. "I'm working with a major consulting firm now," he added, like it mattered. "Big projects. Powerful people." She shrugged. "Good for you. I saw you with the guy next door." Her jaw tightened. "So?" "He looks quiet." She let out a small laugh. "That's not a crime. Just be careful," he said. "With what?" "With men who hide." She turned to him. "You hid." He flinched. "I came to apologize," he said. "And to see you. That's all." She nodded slowly. He stepped closer, his presence heavy, familiar, dangerous. "If you ever want to talk, really talk, I'm here." She stepped back. "Good night, Chris." She closed her door and leaned against it. Her heart was loud in her ears. A few seconds later, Bernard's door opened. He leaned against the frame, hands in his pockets. "He's your ex?" he asked. "Yes." He looked intense. "He is." She hesitated. "He loves power." Bernard's eyes darkened, like she'd touched something old and buried. The black car returned the next day. This time, two men stepped out. Dark suits. Earpieces. They didn't look like neighbors. They entered Bernard's building. Her stomach tightened. She watched from her balcony as they went to his floor. Her fingers dug into the railing. That night, she knocked on his door. He opened it slower than usual. His face looked tired. Older. "Are you okay?" she asked. "Yes." "You had visitors?" "Yes." "Who were they?" He looked past her into the hallway, as if expecting footsteps. "People from my past." She didn't know what that meant. She didn't know Bernard Gerardo was being searched by a dynasty that owned half the city. She didn't know Chris had recognized his last name in confidential corporate files and connected the dots. She didn't know two powerful worlds were closing in on her quiet apartment. She only knew the man next door looked like someone who had been hunted before. And she was standing too close. Ashley didn't sleep that night. She kept seeing the two men in suits walking into Bernard's building like they owned the hallway. She kept hearing his words. "People from my past." She tried to imagine what kind of past required men like that. Her mind offered nothing gentle. The next morning, she saw the black car again. It idled across the street like it had grown roots. She stood by her kitchen window, coffee cooling in her hand, and watched Bernard leave the building. He didn't look at the car. He didn't look at anything. He walked like someone who knew he was being watched and had accepted it. She felt a strange pull in her chest. At work, Chris appeared at her desk. She didn't hear him approach. She felt him. "You look tired," he said. She didn't look up. "I didn't sleep. Can I take you to lunch?" She hesitated. "I just want to talk," he added. "No past. No drama." She sighed. "Fine." The restaurant was expensive. Quiet. Full of people who whispered instead of laughed. "This city changed you," he said. "People change everywhere." He studied her like he was memorizing her again. "I still think about you," he said. She stirred her drink. "Why are you here, Chris?" He leaned back. My firm is working with the Gerardo Group. Her hand froze. Gerardo? He nodded casually. Massive conglomerate. Old money. Real power. Her chest tightened. I heard a rumor their youngest heir disappeared a year ago, he added. Vanished. No public appearances. No statements. She looked away. Chris leaned forward. You said the guy next door's name was Bernard. Her heart skipped. Yes. Bernard what? I don't know. Chris smiled faintly. I might. She met his eyes. Something in his gaze wasn't soft anymore. That evening, she knocked on Bernard's door. He opened it, phone pressed to his ear. He paused when he saw her, then ended the call. You okay? She asked. He nodded. Come in. He looked different. Tense. Like his apartment walls were closing in. She sat on the couch. He stood by the window, hands in his pockets. I had lunch with Chris, she said. His jaw tightened. He mentioned the Gerardo Group. Silence. He said their heir disappeared. Longer silence. She looked up at him. Your name is Bernard Gerardo. He didn't deny it. The room felt smaller. She stood slowly. Are you him? He looked at her like he'd been waiting for this moment and feared it. Yes. Her stomach dropped. She searched his apartment again. The minimalism. The privacy. The lack of personal history. It made sense now. Why didn't you tell me? She whispered. I wanted to be normal, he said quietly. You are a billionaire. I didn't want to be that. She laughed softly, but it didn't sound happy. People would kill to be that. I know. She walked toward him. So the car, the men. My family. Her chest tightened. They're looking for you? Yes. Why? He hesitated. Because I exposed them. Her eyes widened. They do business the wrong way, he said. Bribes. Political leverage. Silence bought with money. She stared at him. I leaked documents. I testified quietly. Then I disappeared. She felt the weight of it settle on her. You're hiding here, she said. Yes. And I live next door. Yes. She sat back down slowly. You should have told me. I didn't want you to see me differently. She looked at him. I do. His face fell. But not worse. 2 days later, everything broke. Ashley woke up to her phone buzzing nonstop. Messages. Notifications. Emails. Her name was trending. She opened a link. Finance analyst connected to missing Gerardo heir. Her hands trembled. Photos of her leaving the building. Photos of her on the balcony. Photos of her walking beside Bernard. The article called her a mysterious woman, a possible accomplice, a gold digger hiding the fugitive heir. Her manager called. Ashley, we need to talk. She arrived at the office and found HR waiting. They asked about Bernard. About how long she knew him. About whether she had knowledge of Gerardo insider information. Her mouth felt dry. I don't, she said. But they were already looking at her differently. That evening, Bernard knocked on her door. She opened it, shaking. They found me, he said. They found me too. He looked at her phone. His face went pale. I'm sorry. She swallowed. This is what your world does. Yes. Silence. I didn't want this for you, he said softly. She nodded slowly. Across the city, Chris watched the news on a large screen in his office. He stared at Ashley's photo beside Bernard's name. He felt something twist inside him. Love. Jealousy. And something colder. He picked up his phone and made a call. They're close, he said. Yes. I'm sure. I'll handle it. He hung up and stared at her picture. If I can't have you, he whispered, no one will keep you clean. The city changed overnight. Ashley felt it the moment she stepped outside. People looked at her differently now. Some with curiosity. Some with judgment. Some with hunger, like her life had turned into entertainment. A man across the street raised his phone and pretended to scroll while clearly filming her. She kept walking. At work, the whispers didn't stop. Her access card paused too long at the door. Her manager avoided eye contact. 2 coworkers stopped talking when she walked into the break room. She sat at her desk and stared at her screen until the letters blurred. Her phone vibrated. Unknown number. You shouldn't have gotten involved with him. She deleted it. Another message came. He will destroy you. She turned the phone off. That evening, Bernard knocked on her door again. She opened it slowly. He looked tired. Not physically, emotionally. Like someone had scraped something off him and left him exposed. "I'm sorry," he said. She nodded. "I know. They're pushing stories. My family has media influence. They're pushing me into a corner," she said. He swallowed. "You can stay with me." She laughed softly. "That will make it worse." Silence sat between them like a third person. "I can disappear again," he said. She looked at him. "And leave me to explain everything?" His eyes dropped. "I didn't mean that." "I know." She stepped aside. "Come in." They sat on the floor this time. The couch felt too far away from everything. "Why didn't you tell me how dangerous it was?" she asked. "I didn't think they'd touch you." She stared at the wall. Power always touches the nearest thing. He nodded. 2 days later, her bank called. "Ms. Wales, we need clarification on recent transactions." She froze. "What transactions?" "There are transfers under your name connected to Gerardo shell companies." Her hands shook. "That's not me. We need documentation." At the office, HR called her again. They sat her down in a small glass room. "Ashley," her manager said gently, "we're investigating possible conflicts of interest." "I didn't do anything." "We know. But perception matters." She wanted to scream. Chris sat in his sleek office, scrolling through files on a tablet. He had arranged it carefully. A few forged timestamps. A few altered digital trails. Some quiet tips to journalists. He watched Ashley's name fall through corporate channels like a stain spreading through water. He remembered the way she looked at Bernard. The way she didn't look at him anymore. He leaned back and whispered, "You chose wrong." That night, police cars parked outside Ashley's building. Not for her yet. But they were close enough to make her heart race. Bernard knocked on her door. "They're escalating," he said. "I noticed." He sat beside her on the couch. Not touching. Just close enough to feel his warmth. "I can pull strings," he said. "I can end this." "With money?" she asks. "With influence." She looked at him. "That's the problem." Silence. "They're testing me," he added. "If I come back, they'll stop attacking you." Her chest tightened. "And what if you don't?" "They'll keep pushing." She stared at her hands. The next morning, she was called into a conference room at work. 2 men in suits waited. Government suits. Her manager sat beside them, looking pale. "Ms. Wales," one man said calmly, "we need you to answer a few questions." Her heart pounded. They asked about Bernard. About emails. About finances. She answered everything truthfully. They exchanged looks. "We'll be in touch," one said. She walked out feeling like the ground wasn't real. Chris watched security footage from the building lobby that evening. He saw Bernard walk into Ashley's apartment with coffee. He paused the footage. He stared. He felt something crack inside him. He picked up his phone again. "Push it further," he said. "Frame her harder?" "Yes." He hesitated, then added, "But make it believable," he said one last time before ending the call. He stared at the paused image. "I loved you," he whispered. Ashley couldn't sleep. She sat on her bed, laptop open, reading articles about herself. They called her mysterious, ambitious, suspicious. She felt like she was being rewritten by strangers. Her door knocked softly. Bernard entered without waiting. "I can't watch this," he said. She looked up. "Then don't." He sat beside her on the bed. "I will go back," he said. Her breath caught. "Back where?" "To them." She stared at him. "If I return as heir, they'll stop this. They'll protect you." She shook her head. "They'll own you. They already did." She remained silent. "I'd rather be owned than watch you break." Her eyes burned with tears hearing him say that. Across the city, Chris watched another report go live. Insider investigation. Did Ashley Wales facilitate Gerardo data leaks? He turned off the screen. He felt sick. He felt powerful. He felt in love. And love, to him, felt like possession. Ashley woke up to the sound of her phone ringing like it was screaming. Unknown number. Again. She stared at the screen until the vibration stopped. Then it rang again. She answered. "Ms. Wales," a woman's voice asked. "Yes." This is the Federal Financial Crimes Unit. We need you to come in today for questioning. Her fingers tightened around the phone. Is this about Bernard? It's about you. The call ended. She sat on the edge of her bed, staring at the floor. The apartment felt unfamiliar now. Every wall felt thinner. Every sound felt like a witness. She walked into the kitchen and found Bernard sitting at the table, hands wrapped around a mug he wasn't drinking from. I heard, he said. She didn't ask how. They're calling me in. He nodded slowly. I won't let this happen, he said. You already are. He flinched. The building lobby was full of people pretending not to look at her. A woman whispered her name. A man held up his phone and zoomed in. Ashley kept her head down. Outside, a black sedan waited. Not the one from before. This one had government plates. She stepped inside. The interrogation room was quiet. White walls. One-way glass. Two officers sat across from her. Ms. Wales, one said gently, we've traced multiple financial transfers to accounts linked to Gerardo subsidiaries. They originated from your login credentials. That's impossible, she said. We believe you may have been used, knowingly or unknowingly. Her throat felt dry. We need your devices. She handed them over with shaking hands. Across the city, Chris sat in a private conference room, watching a live feed from a news network. Ashley Wales under federal investigation. He stared at her photo. He didn't feel proud. He didn't feel relieved. He felt hollow. He picked up his phone. Bernard paced his apartment like a trapped animal. He called lawyers he trusted. He called journalists who owed him. He called former allies who hated his family. They're crossing a line, he said into the phone. They always do, the voice replied. Prepare everything, Bernard said. If they touch her, I burn them. He hung up and stared at the city. He had never wanted the throne. But he had never wanted anyone else to suffer because of his rebellion. Ashley was released late that evening. Not arrested. Not cleared. Suspended in limbo. Her job sent a formal email. You were placed on indefinite administrative leave pending investigation. She sat on her couch and stared at the screen until the words stopped meaning anything. A knock came. She didn't answer. The knock came again. She opened the door. Chris stood there. He looked different. No suit. No power posture. Just a man with tired eyes and something broken in his voice. I shouldn't be here, he said. She didn't move. I pushed things too far, he said. Her jaw tightened. You pushed. He looked away. They called me in today, she said quietly. They took my devices. I know. She stared at him. You know? He stepped inside without waiting for permission. I work with the Gerardo Group, he said. Their legal and corporate strategy team. She felt something sink in her stomach. And you're here because? He swallowed. I saw you with him. I saw you choose him. Her chest tightened. I thought I lost you because I cheated, he continued. But then I realized. I lost you because I didn't become someone powerful enough fast enough. She stared at him like she didn't recognize him. So you decided to destroy me? He shook his head. I decided to control the story. She laughed softly. It sounded empty. You planted evidence, she said. I made it look real. Why? He looked at her like he was still in love with the girl she used to be. Because I still love you, he said. And because I hate that he has you. Her hands trembled. This isn't love, she said. It is, he whispered. It just doesn't look pretty. She sat down slowly. Do you know what it feels like to be watched like a criminal? She asked. He nodded. Do you know what it feels like to be erased by people who don't know you? He stayed silent. You loved me once, she said. If you ever loved me, you'll fix this. He stared at the floor. I don't know how to stop it, he said. You started it. He looked up. I can't undo everything. But I can slow it down. Do it, she said. He nodded once. Bernard arrived an hour later. He saw Chris leaving the hallway. Their eyes met. Something dark passed between them. Inside, Bernard sat beside Ashley. She looked smaller than usual. They almost arrested me, she said. He nodded. They're using you to pull me back. She stared at him. And you're thinking of going? Yes. Her heart sank. I'm not worth that, she said. He shook his head. You're worth everything. She laughed bitterly. You don't even know me. I know you enough. Silence filled the room. They'll destroy you if you return, she said. They already destroyed me when I left. She looked at him. I will end them, he said quietly. Across the city, the Gerardo family council met in a room filled with glass and power. He's close to her, one said. Use her, another replied. He won't resist if she's threatened. They nodded. The game was simple. The Gerardo family council chamber overlooked the city like a glass god. Screens wrapped around the room, showing live feeds, stock tickers, and news panels. Men and women sat around the table in tailored suits, their voices calm, their faces unbothered. They were not villains in movies. They were worse, quiet people who decided what the world would believe. He's not returning, one woman said, fingers tapping against a crystal tablet. He's grown sentimental. That's temporary, an older man replied. Sentiment is fragile. Another voice came through the speaker, distorted. Ashley Wales is the pressure point. We're already squeezing. A younger council member leaned forward. He's called journalists, lawyers, whistleblowers. He's preparing something. Then we escalate, the older man said simply. He looked at Ashley's face on a screen. She thinks this is chaos, he added. We will teach her what structure feels like. Ashley sat in Bernard's apartment, knees drawn to her chest, laptop balanced on her thighs. She scrolled through legal forums, criminal statutes, investigative journalism articles. Everything felt like a language she was learning too late. Her phone buzzed again. Unknown number. She didn't open it. Bernard watched her from the doorway. She had lost weight. Her laughter had thinned. Her eyes were always searching for exits now. They won't arrest you without proof, he said. They already created proof, she replied quietly. He didn't argue. He walked to the window and stared at the city. It was loud, alive, and ruthless. He had once thought he owned it. Now it felt like a machine grinding her down. They're meeting, he said. Who? My family. Council. She closed the laptop slowly. They're deciding what to do with you. She didn't flinch. She already felt like something being decided. Chris sat in his car, parked across the street, engine off. He hadn't told Ashley he was watching. He hated himself for it, but he couldn't stop. He watched Bernard through the apartment window, standing beside her, talking low. He imagined their voices, imagined her leaning into Bernard's chest. He felt the same jealousy again, but now it was mixed with fear. He had crossed a line he couldn't see anymore. His phone buzzed. Gerardo internal. He answered. They're escalating, the voice said. I told you I'd slow it down, Chris replied. You slowed nothing. They're turning her into an example. He swallowed. Why, he asked. To force Bernard back. Or to crush him if he refuses. Chris stared at Ashley through the glass. For the first time, he realized she wasn't a chess piece. She was a hostage. 2 days later, Ashley was called in again. This time, there was no polite tone. They took her phone, her laptop, her tablet, her cloud accounts. A warrant was placed on her apartment. Her landlord called, voice nervous. Ashley, I've been advised to terminate your lease. I'm sorry. She packed a bag and walked out without arguing. Bernard met her downstairs. You'll stay with me, he said. She didn't fight it anymore. That night, news broke. Gerardo Group announces return of heir Bernard Gerardo to public life. Ashley stared at the screen. He hadn't told her. She looked at him across the living room. He looked tired, but resolved. They're forcing your hand, she said. I'm forcing theirs. Her chest tightened. What does that mean? He walked over and sat beside her. It means I'm walking back into the fire. She stared at his hands. They were steady. They'll stop attacking you if I return. And if they don't? They will. Because I'll be theirs again. She felt something twist inside her. You'll be owned, she whispered. Yes. You don't have to do that. He looked at her, his lips pulling into a slim smile. Yes, I do. It's the only way to keep you safe. She wanted to argue. She wanted to tell him not to sacrifice himself. But she was tired of being brave. The press conference was scheduled for noon. Bernard stood behind a podium, cameras flashing, reporters shouting. Ashley watched from the back of the hall, hood pulled low. He looked different in a suit again. Like the world fit him too well. I left the Gerardo group because I disagreed with its practices, Bernard said calmly. I am returning because I intend to dismantle those practices from within. The room erupted. Ashley felt her breath catch. He wasn't surrendering. He was declaring war. The council watched from their chamber. He thinks he's noble, the older man said. He thinks love makes him powerful, the woman replied. Love makes people predictable. That evening, Ashley's phone rang. Private number. She answered. Ms. Wales, the voice said. Calm. Polished. Dangerous. This is the Gerardo Family Council. Her fingers tightened. We'd like to meet. She told Bernard. He stared at her for a long time. They want leverage, he said. I'm already leverage. He shook his head slowly. They want more. The meeting was held in a glass building that felt like a museum for people who collected human lives. Ashley walked in alone. 6 people sat around the table. They smiled like doctors delivering diagnoses. You've caused quite a disturbance, the older man said. I didn't ask to be part of this, she replied. You chose Bernard Gerardo, the woman said. Choice has consequences. Ashley held her hands together to stop them from shaking. What do you want? To understand your value. She looked up. You are the reason Bernard returned, the man said. You are the reason he's dangerous now. She swallowed. We don't like dangerous. He slid a folder across the table. Inside were photos. Her childhood home. Her mother at a market. Her college records. Her friends. You're small, he said gently. You're easy to erase. Or elevate. She felt sick. What does that mean? We could clear your name, the woman said. Public apology. Media cleanup. A job offer that makes your reputation immaculate. Ashley stared. And you leave Bernard. Her heart stopped. Permanently. Silence. And if I don't? The man leaned forward. We finish what Chris started. Prison. Exile. Oblivion. She felt the room tilt. Outside, Bernard paced. He had never felt fear like this. He had faced assassinations, corporate coups, scandals. But waiting for Ashley to walk out of that room felt worse than death. Inside, Ashley stared at the folder. She imagined peace. No whispers. No cameras. No fear. She imagined Bernard alone. She closed the folder. No. The room was silent. You're choosing chaos, the woman said. I'm choosing him. The older man smiled slightly. Then you're choosing war. Ashley walked out of the building with her head high. She didn't see the cameras. She didn't see the journalists. She saw Bernard. He walked toward her like the world didn't exist. What did they say? He asked. She didn't answer immediately. They offered to erase me, she said. And? They asked me to erase you. His eyes darkened. And you? I said no. He stared at her. For a moment, he looked like he might break. He pulled her into a hug so tight, she felt his heartbeat hammering. We're burning them, he whispered. Across the city, the council watched the footage. She chose him, the woman said. Then we choose destruction, the man replied. The retaliation didn't come like a storm. It came like a quiet illness. Ashley noticed it first in small things. Her email stopped working. Her bank app froze. Her ride-sharing account showed a permanent suspension. Then the real wave hit. Ashley Wales indicted in international financial conspiracy. Her face was everywhere again. But this time, the headlines didn't sound curious. They sounded final. She sat on Bernard's couch, television muted, watching herself be dismantled by strangers with confident voices. They're moving fast, Bernard said. He stood by the window, phone pressed to his ear, speaking in a language of law, power, and threats she barely understood. They fabricated offshore accounts, shelled transactions, fake whistleblowers, he said after hanging up. They're making it global. She stared at the screen. They're making me a criminal on purpose. Yes. She laughed once. It sounded like glass breaking. Meanwhile, Chris sat in a conference room inside Gerardo headquarters. He hadn't slept. He hadn't eaten. He watched the press conference replay again and again. He had wanted to scare Ashley. He had wanted Bernard to feel jealous. He had wanted control. He hadn't wanted this. His supervisor leaned against the table. "You started the narrative," the man said. "Now you help us finish it." "I said I'd slow it down," Chris replied. "You slowed nothing. Now she's a liability. We remove liabilities." Chris felt cold. "You're going to destroy her life," he said. "We already are." He thought of her sitting on that couch, eyes hollow, still believing in something as fragile as love. He realized he was in love with a woman he was about to bury. He walked out of the room without permission. 2 days later, the knock came. Not a polite knock. A controlled one. Bernard opened the door. Men in dark suits stood there. Federal agents. "Ashley Wales, you are being detained for questioning regarding international financial fraud." Ashley felt her lungs forget how to work. Bernard stepped forward. "She has legal representation." "This is not optional," the agent said calmly. Ashley grabbed her coat. She looked at Bernard. He looked like he was already bleeding. "I'll fix this," he said. She nodded. She didn't believe in promises anymore. The room was colder than before. This time, they didn't pretend kindness. They showed her documents. Emails she never wrote. Transfers she never made. Voice logs stitched together from AI reconstruction. "You were used as a proxy," one agent said. "Or you were the architect." She felt like she was drowning in paper. "We need cooperation," the other said. "Or this becomes prosecution." She stared at the table. "What if I have nothing to give you?" They exchanged looks. "Then you become the example." Bernard didn't sleep. He gathered evidence. He leaked internal Gerardo documents to independent journalists. He contacted former board members who hated his family. He released encrypted recordings of council meetings. Within 48 hours, headlines shifted. Gerardo dynasty accused of global market manipulation. Heir Bernard Gerardo turns whistleblower. The stock market trembled. The council panicked. The older man stood in the council chamber. "He's dismantling us," the woman said. "He's dismantling himself," he replied. "Then we take the last thing he loves." Chris stood outside the detention building. He had clearance. He had access. He had guilt. He found Ashley sitting alone in a holding room, staring at a wall. "I didn't think they'd go this far," he said. "You designed it," she replied without looking at him. He swallowed. "I can help you." She turned slowly. "How?" "I have access to the data they used. I can prove it was fabricated." Her eyes widened. "Why no?" He looked away. "Because I loved you wrong." Silence. "Do it," she said. 3 days later, everything exploded. Chris leaked the fabrication architecture. Journalists traced it back to Gerardo executives. Investigators raided council offices. International regulators froze accounts. Ashley was released. Not cleared. But no longer the villain. She walked out into sunlight like she had been buried and reborn. Bernard waited. He looked thinner. Older. Dangerous. He hugged her like he had forgotten how fragile humans were. "They're done," he said. She shook her head. "No. You're done." He nodded. He had signed away his inheritance that morning. He had destroyed his family's empire to save her. He was no longer a billionaire heir. He was just Bernard. However, Chris was arrested 2 weeks later. Not for loving Ashley. For everything he had helped build. She watched the news quietly. She felt no joy. No revenge. Only grief for the boy he used to be. Months passed. The noise faded. Ashley found work again, small, honest, far from headlines. Bernard built something smaller. Transparent. Ethical. A company that would never look like a throne. They moved away. No glass towers. No council rooms. Just a house. A quiet one. Next door to nothing. 5 years later. Ashley stood in the kitchen, hands on her belly. Pregnant again. Her 3-year-old son ran in circles around the table, frosting on his nose, laughing too loud. "Mommy, Daddy burned the cake." Bernard stood at the stove, wearing an apron that said "World's okayest dad," trying to scrape something black off a pan. "It's not burned," he argued. "It's emotionally charred." Ashley laughed. It was a real laugh. The doorbell rang. Bernard opened it. No paparazzi. No reporters. Just sunlight. He carried in a cake from a small local bakery. She remembered the first birthday. Lonely, broken, invisible. Now the house was loud, warm, alive. Her son hugged her legs. "Happy birthday, Mommy." She knelt and kissed his hair. Bernard kissed her forehead. "Happy birthday, Ashley Wales." She looked around. No power, no fear, no empire, just love. She once believed love was something rich people used to destroy others. Now she knew love was something two broken people used to build a life. If this story touched you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Tell us in the comments, would you choose love over power? And stay with us for the next billionaire romance story. Until next time, this is Soul Storyverse TV.